Christmas Eve, 2019, a transmission tower on an 8,400-foot ridge in the San Juan Range had taken a direct lightning strike. Two linemen pushed through knee-deep snow toward the base, their headlamps cutting shaky paths through the storm. Jonathan Mills and his foreman Connor McCabe had broken at least 2 rules getting here. They knew that 22-year-old Tyler Vance was already 200 feet up, and the last sliver of daylight had vanished before he'd even clipped in.
You seeing what I am seeing, Mills?
At the pinnacle of the tower, 2 distinct lights glowed against the black. Tyler's headlamp, white and steady, and 5 feet above it, a faint blue radiance that had no source.
There's someone up here with me.
Say again, Tyler. Who's with you? Silence, then a burst of static.
Tyler, get down. Now.
The blue light shifted. It slipped sideways through the tower's steel lattice, moving with a fluidity that had nothing to do with wind or snow. It stopped directly above Tyler. Then it began to descend. Jonathan Mills, 11 years on transmission towers in the Colorado Rockies. He learned early that the backcountry held rules no official safety manual covered, 5 of them. 2 months before Christmas Eve, he and foreman Connor McCabe drove back from a repair after sundown. The woods already felt different.
You ever tell the new kid about the other rules, Mills?
He'll learn the 5 rules soon enough. Everyone does.
Took me 3 winters before anyone mentioned the gray coveralls. Should have been told day 1.
Old Bill Harlow sat me down my first winter. Said, "You break Rule 1, you won't have to worry about the other 4. There were 5 unofficial rules in the San Juan district, each one a scar from something that had gone wrong before. Rule 1, never climb after sundown. Not for money, not for heroics, not for 14,000 freezing homes. Rule 2, if you heard humming from a de-energized tower, you didn't check it. You called dispatch and drove away. The remaining rules were stranger. The crew never spoke them aloud to outsiders. The new kid would learn why soon enough. In early November, before the first heavy snow, Jonathan walked the new kid through the big rule, the one that didn't come from the company handbook. Once the sun drops, no one touches a tower. Not for a blackout, not for a hospital on backup generators.
It's not just the dark, kid. The mountains change after sundown. The towers feel different.
Connor had seen a climber ignore it once. A 40-year-old lineman named Harris who went up at dusk for a simple inspection. Harris reached the top and felt something brush past his shoulder. No wind, no bird, just a cold weight that moved in the dark. He descended without a word, packed his gear, and transferred to a desk job 2 weeks later. Never climbed again. Old Bill says the towers aren't empty after dark. Something watches them.
Watches, like an animal.
Animals run. Whatever's up there doesn't.
The rule was absolute. Climb after sundown, and you'd share the tower with whatever waited in the dark. The rookie listened. Weeks later, on Christmas Eve, he would break it. Early in his career, Jonathan learned that a silent tower was safe. A humming one, even dead on the grid, meant something else entirely. It's not the 60 hertz hum you'd hear from a live line. This one drifts like a chord that can't find its note.
Had a crew up near Wolf Creek that ignored it. They climbed anyway, figured their meters were faulty.
By the time they descended, their battery packs were dead. Radios, flashlights, phones, drained in 20 minutes. Something pulls current from the air. No equipment lasts, and it doesn't just take from gear.
Gets into your bones. You feel cold in a way the weather can't explain.
2 linemen from that crew transferred out of the district by spring. The 3rd refused to ever return to that ridge. Ever heard it yourself?
Once. 5 years ago. I heard it on a late shift. I radioed dispatch and backed the truck up a quarter mile before I looked back.
The rule was simple. Any hum from a dead tower, and you left the ridge to whatever fed on the dark. Rule 3 was non-negotiable. No lineman ever worked a tower alone. Minimum 2 climbers on the steel, one always in sight of the other. Not just a safety regulation, it's a witness requirement. Without a partner, you can't be sure of what you are seeing.
Davis sent his partner down for a wrench, looked up, and saw a third figure standing on the top crossarm.
His partner was still on the ground, boots on snow, shouting up at him. The figure above wasn't either of them.
Davis froze. The silhouette was too tall, too still. Then it turned its head, slowly, like it was noticing him for the first time.
Davis descended so fast, he burned his gloves on the steel. He wouldn't speak for the rest of the shift.
The district logged it as a near miss with an authorized civilian, but there were no footprints, no vehicle tracks. Nothing in the snow but their own.
From that day, no one climbed alone. The buddy system wasn't about safety. It was about not facing the dark by yourself.
You see something up there that shouldn't be. You want someone else seeing it too. Otherwise, you spend the rest of your career wondering.
Rule 3. Never climb alone, because sometimes the tower had more climbers than the crew assigned. Rule 4 was the strangest. The men in gray coveralls, who sometimes appeared at the base of a tower, were not utility employees. Do not speak to them.
I saw them once, my second winter. 3 figures standing in the tree line near Tower 9.
They wore gray coveralls without patches, no hard hats, no tools, just standing, facing the steel.
I called out. They didn't move, just watched.
When Jonathan approached, the figures simply weren't there. No footprints, no sound of retreat, just empty snow.
They show up at dusk mostly. When the light is dying, that's when the rules start to matter.
Older linemen warned that the gray men were not to be acknowledged. What ignored you? Maybe stayed away.
You see them? You get in your truck and leave. No conversation, no second look.
One crew member left a note on a tower after seeing them. They found the note inside his pack the next morning, rewritten in a hand he didn't recognize. Rule 4. The gray men are not your colleagues. They're not even human. Don't speak to them. Rule 5 was the last one, and the most disturbing. If you saw someone already at the top of a tower, you descended and called dispatch immediately.
Had a crew spot a man in old climbing gear at the top of a tower near Durango. No truck, no tracks, just standing up there.
The gear was 30 years out of date. He didn't acknowledge them. Just watched.
They looked away to radio it in. When they turned back, the cross arm was empty.
No descent, no sound. The crew refused the climb. Transferred out within the month.
Rule 5 exists because sometimes the tower is already occupied, and whatever's up there doesn't like company.
Jonathan had never witnessed it, but he trusted the nightmares of the men who had.
You see someone up there, you leave. You don't climb up to introduce yourself.
The logic was absolute. The figure was never a lineman. It was something wearing a lineman's shape. By December, every member of the crew knew these rules. On Christmas Eve, the rules would become more than superstition. On the 24th of December, a storm cell rolled over the San Juans by 4 p.m., swallowing the peaks in wind and heavy snow. A single bolt struck Tower 14 on the 8,400-foot ridge. The flash lit the entire valley white. Grid monitors blanked. Within 3 minutes, 14,000 homes in the southern Rockies lost power. At the station, Connor spread the map and circled the stricken tower with a red marker.
Tower 14 took a direct hit. Entire southern grid is down. We need to go now.
Sunsets in 40 minutes. We won't make it before dark.
I can climb it. Get me to the base. I'll have the bypass up before full dark.
No one climbs after sundown. That's the first rule, kid. We wait until morning.
But the damage assessment showed a catastrophic splice. Without repair, the backcountry would freeze by morning. Tyler stared at the map, jaw tight. He made a choice before anyone could stop him. Tyler grabbed his harness and pushed past Connor before a hand could stop him.
Vance, you break that rule, and you are off this crew.
Then fire me. I am not letting 14,000 people freeze tonight.
Jonathan ran after him, but the truck engine turned over, and the taillights vanished into the snow. By the time Tyler reached the tower base, The last scrap of daylight was bleeding out of the sky. He clipped his harness in silence. No partner, no radio confirmation. At 5:04 p.m., he started climbing. He had broken the oldest rule. The sun was gone, and the tower was no longer silent. Connor and Jonathan took the only other truck, racing up the switchbacks 20 minutes behind. They reached the base and killed their headlights. Above them, a single beam climbed higher. The dark felt thick, pressing in from all sides. Rule 1 existed for a reason, and now it was being smashed open. The second light had stopped it descending. It hovered now, 5 feet above Tyler's headlamp, a cold blue point in the storm.
He's still not responding. Mills, we climb or we call dispatch.
Dispatch won't reach us for an hour. He won't last that long. We go up.
They grabbed their harnesses and moved toward the steel. Both knew they were about to break Rule 1 themselves, but the thought didn't slow them.
Vance, can you hear me? Vance.
No reply. The blue light had moved again, drifting sideways now, orbiting Tyler's beam like a satellite.
It's coming down. Mills, that thing is coming toward us.
The blue light descended to 20 feet above the ground, then stopped and simply vanished, leaving only Tyler's headlamp high above.
It saw us. It decided we weren't worth the attention.
They began to climb, because whatever had been watching Tyler was still above them, and Tyler still wasn't answering. They climbed 20 feet, then stopped to call up again. Above them, the blue light reappeared, brighter than before, pulsing like a heartbeat.
Vance, answer me. God damn it. Can you hear us?
The blue light flickered, then shot straight up, vanishing into the tower's peak. Tyler's headlamp still shone, motionless.
He's not moving. Something's wrong.
They climbed faster, hands freezing on the steel. But before they'd gained another 30 feet, the headlamp above them started downward.
He's descending. Mills, he's coming down on his own.
The descent was too calm. Tyler's movements were mechanical, as if his body was being operated by something else.
Vance, what happened up there? Answer me.
Tyler reached the ground, just as they climbed down. His face was empty, eyes hollow. He said nothing. The blue light had not reappeared, but the feeling of being watched had not left the tower. Whatever Tyler had seen, he had brought it back down with him. Tyler stood motionless at the base of the tower, snow collecting on his shoulders, his face empty. Jonathan and Connor shouted questions, but he didn't seem to hear them.
Vance, talk to us. What was up there? Vance.
Tyler walked to the truck and pulled out a hot stick and a splice kit. His movements were mechanical, like a man in a trance. Then he spoke, flat and clinical.
The splice is blown. I need to replace it.
You are not going back up there. We'll do it together in the morning. Tyler, you can't.
Tyler ignored him. He clipped his harness, shouldered the splice kit, and started climbing back into the darkness alone, as if the tower were now the only place that made sense. Jonathan and Connor could only watch as his headlamp rose to the crossarm. The blue glow did not reappear, but the air felt heavier, as if the dark was holding its breath. He worked for 17 minutes. Then, without warning, the valley lit up below them. 14,000 homes flickered back to life. When Tyler descended the second time, his face was the same hollow mask. Connor tried to stop him, to demand an answer, but Tyler walked past him in silence. That night, the power was restored, but the man who came down from the tower was not the rookie who climbed up. Something had stayed with him, and it was not leaving. In the days after Christmas, Tyler worked every shift. He climbed, he repaired, he left, but he never looked anyone in the eye.
He's not right. You see it, don't you? He's like a machine now. Nothing left.
Jonathan nodded. The rookie who'd argued his foreman was gone. A hollow man had taken his place.
He's waiting. Every time he passes a tower, he looks up and waits, like something's about to come down.
One evening, Connor gathered the crew and gave them a new instruction, unspoken, but absolute.
No one asks Vance about Christmas Eve. What happened up there stays up there. Understood?
The crew nodded. They'd heard stories, pressing a man who'd seen that could push him somewhere worse. Jonathan passed Tyler's cabin at night. Every light burned, and a shadow sat motionless in the window.
He's not sleeping, Connor. He keeps the lights on. I think he's scared of the dark now.
Connor looked away. Tyler broke the sundown rule, and now the dark would follow him forever. Tyler worked 3 more years on the crew. His hands stayed steady. His eyes never regained their focus. In March 2023, he handed in his harness and transferred to a desk job in Denver. He looked thinner, older. Coworkers said he never turned his back to a window. The mountains were somewhere behind the glass. By summer of 2024, he filed for early retirement. 27 years old, and his body was done. He bought a cabin outside Telluride, at the end of an unmaintained road. From the road, the cabin burned like a lamp in the void. Every light on, every hour, every night. Inside, Tyler sat in a chair facing the door.
I drove up there once, last October. The road was unplowed, but I walked the last half-mile to the cabin.
Through the front window, he saw Tyler's silhouette, motionless, upright, hands on his knees, staring at the door. Tyler had not slept in darkness for 5 years. The cabin had backup generators, storm lanterns in every room, and a single bare bulb above the front porch that never went out. A week before Bill Harlow retired, he showed Jonathan something from that Christmas Eve. A blown-up photograph taken from the base of the tower. In the photo, 2 figures stood at the top of the tower. One was Tyler, headlamp blazing. Slightly above him was another Tyler, older, hollow-eyed, watching. Bill said, "He knows. Tyler has seen this photo. He's waiting for that older version of himself to come back down." Jonathan stared at the photo until the edges of the room blurred. The older Tyler had the same jaw, the same build, but the eyes were empty. Not dead, just waiting.
We didn't see it that night. Too dark, too much snow. The photograph caught it. One of the crew had a long exposure setting.
Bill tapped the older figure's face. "This isn't a double exposure. It's not lens flare. I had it analyzed. That's a solid shape, Mills."
How long have you had this?
I've carried it for 5 years. Didn't have the stomach to show it. Not until now, when I am walking away.
He slid the photo toward Jonathan. "Tyler knows. I found him studying it last year, in his office. Didn't flinch. Said he's been waiting for it to climb down."
That thing isn't coming down, Bill. It's already here, inside him.
Maybe. But he's still waiting. And I think one day, when he's old enough to match the photo, it will come back for real.
Jonathan left Bill's office with the photo in his jacket. That night, he sat alone in his truck, staring at the 2 Tylers until the dome light burned out. He understood now that the 5 rules were not warnings. They were a formula for survival, and even then, it might not be enough. Jonathan sat motionless in the truck, the photo still pressed between his fingers. He felt the weight of it, as if the older Tyler had somehow climbed down and settled inside his chest.
If I go to him now, what do I say? I saw your future self in a photograph, and it was watching you.
The engine turned over, and the headlights carved a path up the unplowed road toward Telluride. He drove without music, without the radio. A 1/4 mile from the cabin, he killed the headlights and walked the rest, snow silent under his boots. The cabin blazed, every window a rectangle of hard yellow light. No shadow moved inside. It felt less like a home and more like a warning left on.
He's still in there, still waiting. If I knock, he'll answer. If I don't, he'll keep waiting. Either way, I can't bring him back.
He stood in the snow for 10 minutes, the photo pressing against his chest. Then he turned and walked back to the truck, leaving only a single set of footprints. The photo stayed in his pocket. He would not show it to Connor. He would not explain it to anyone. It was enough that he knew. The 5 rules had kept the crew alive, but they couldn't protect a man from himself. Some things they just made you endure. Tyler was still waiting in the cabin, lights blazing, and out in the dark, the older Tyler was still watching from the top of the tower. Jonathan drove back to the station in silence. The photograph lay on the passenger seat, the older Tyler's hollow eyes catching the dashboard lights every time the road curved. Bill Harlow stood outside the station, his truck already packed, one hand resting on the door handle. He intercepted Jonathan before he could go inside.
You went up there, didn't you? Telluride.
I didn't knock.
Good. He's not looking for company. He's waiting for one person, and it isn't you.
Bill handed over a small manila envelope, sealed with a single piece of tape. Inside was Tyler's complete personnel file, the unredacted one.
He called me last winter, asked if I thought the photo could be a warning instead of a promise.
What did you tell him?
I told him, I've been a lineman 46 years, and I've never seen anything that could promise a good ending.
Bill climbed into his truck and drove east, toward the flatlands, and whatever retirement held for a man who'd seen too much. Jonathan stood alone, the envelope heavy in his hand. Jonathan sat in the truck, the manila envelope still unopened on his lap. The parking lot was empty now, Bill's taillights long gone. He tore the seal. Inside, a typed psych report and a folded note, paper yellowed, date stamped, 6 months after the incident. Patient Tyler Vance reports a persistent visual schema, an older male figure identical to himself, observed at a distance of 5-10 feet. Medication ineffective. Prognosis guarded. Jonathan set the report aside. The note beneath it was Bill's handwriting, jagged and rushed. He told me the old one isn't watching. He's waiting for Tyler to be old enough to trade places. The photo proves it. Burn it. Jonathan folded the note carefully, as if folding it could erase the words. He reached for the glove box. Inside was a pack of matches from some diner. He struck one, held it to the corner of the note, until the flame reached his fingertips. Smoke curled toward the roofliner. He flicked the ash out into the snow. Whatever Bill had feared, it died with the paper. He started the engine. The rules had held for a reason. They kept the living away from the dark, but they couldn't stop a man from waiting for his own face to climb down. The cabin in Telluride still blazed. Tyler hadn't moved. Some weights, Jonathan realized, had no finish line. He didn't go home. He drove to the base of Tower 14, where the snow still held the scars of that night. He killed the engine and stood in the twilight, the photograph heavy against his chest. The older Tyler's hollow eyes stared back unchanged, as if they'd been waiting for this moment.
This is the cost of one bad decision. Everything you are stolen by something that wears your face.
He folded the photo neatly, edges aligned, and slipped it into the plastic sleeve inside his hard hat. Then he put on his harness, not to climb, but to remember why he never would. After dark again, he sat in the cab until full dark, watching the tower's silhouette swallow the stars.
I'll carry this, and I'll make sure every new kid knows Rule 1 before they ever touch steel.
He started the engine and drove back to the station. The tower stood behind him, empty. For now, the photograph stayed in his hard hat, a reminder that the rules were not superstition, they were survival. The tower on the 8,400-foot ridge stood as it always had. Snow buried the old footprints, but the steel remembered. At dusk, if you looked carefully, a faint blue glow appeared at the top crossarm, older than the tower, patient as winter. In Telluride, the cabin still blazed. Tyler hadn't moved. The lights were a fortress against the dark, but the dark was patient too. The older Tyler watched from the tree line, identical and hollow, a promise that nothing ends. Jonathan carried the photograph inside his hard hat, a reminder that the rules were not warnings. They were survival. The 5 rules held. No one climbed after sundown, but the tower belonged to the dark, and the dark kept its promises. Tyler is still waiting. And maybe he's right too. The tower stands. The light remains. The old one never climbs down. It's just waiting, and one day, maybe Tyler will be old enough to climb up and meet it. In the months after Bill left, Jonathan took on the old man's duty, walking new rookies through the 5 rules, one by one.
Rule 1. Never climb after sundown. Not for love, not for money, not for anything.
The cabin near Telluride remained lit, its generator never silent. Tyler's silhouette still sat motionless against the window, a fixture of that empty road. No one visited. Tyler never answered the phone. The older Tyler in the photograph had become the only visitor he still waited for. Jonathan never climbed after dark again, but every sunset, when the crew packed up, he glanced at the highest crossarm of the nearest tower.
Just checking. Just making sure my own face isn't up there.
The 5 rules stood untouched, passed from weathered hand to rookie grip, a liturgy of survival in the back country, and high on the 8,400-foot ridge, the blue light continued to pulse, patient, timeless, waiting for someone else to break. The older Tyler did not descend, yet. But the watch never ended, and the rules remained, written in fear, sealed by photographs, and kept alive by every lineman who had ever looked up at a dark tower and known something was looking back. At sunrise, the crew gathered in the station yard. Jonathan, now the oldest on the line, checked every harness before any climb. He mentioned the 5 rules without drama, like a weather report. Necessary, eternal, lethal if ignored. The tower on the ridge still caught the first light, and the last, its silhouette a constant reminder of the boundary. At dusk, the blue glow reappeared, a cold star anchored to steel, visible only to those who knew where to look. Tyler's cabin never dimmed. The hum of the generator became the mountain's heartbeat, steady and insomniac. Inside, Tyler sat unchanged, his eyes fixed on the door, his face slowly sculpting into the hollow mask from the photograph. The older Tyler waited in the tree line, patient as stone, part of the darkness now, watching his younger self grow older. Jonathan kept the photo until the paper crumbled, then buried the pieces under the tower base, adding his own offering to the steel.
Some rules are not warnings, he told the last rookie. They're the only thing between you and what waits.
Above, the blue light pulsed once, then settled into a steady glow, promising nothing, ending nothing, simply there.